Damn it. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another recap review of the HBO Max series, Last of Us. We are on this week, episode 8. I haven't figured the name out for it, but I know the name of the guy sitting next to me, and that next to me, there we go. And it's Lou and my stepson, Terrell. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, man? Back for another episode. I had to message you because I knew the territory where we were going next with this, and I was like, yeah,
Well,
this is gonna be tough, but it's been a good week, and I'm ready to get into the PlayStation Classic episode 8 of The Last of Us, and I'm excited to talk about this episode.
There you go. And this one we're gonna call this one "Everyone Eats Everyone." The best way I could put the name of the episode is "Everyone Eats
Eventually.
Eventually. There you go. That's it. So we start off episode 8 with, it's weird. It starts off with a morning session as we see these new group of survivors we're being introduced to here, as they're all sitting around, as a leader who we later know is David, is giving a speech to his crew, and the speech is about losing someone. So we didn't know at this point the correlation that the loss was the person who Joe killed in the prior episode, but we did just understand the way this setting was set up. So not from the game standpoint, just from the show standpoint, what you think about this initial introduction to the crew, whether it be David giving a speech, and then at the end through him and James talking afterwards about how scarce everything is for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere, and potentially a blizzard, whatever's going on here.
Yeah.
And they talk about, it's kind of hard to find supplies. I mean, especially where you kind of out of reach, no vehicles, and somehow they still got electricity.
Hey.
You would think that somebody would have had a local corner store at some point within the last 20 years. And
I mean, you would hope so, but I mean, technically, it's been what, 20 years?
Yeah, so I'm not. They don't get in the detail as to how long they've been there, but I mean, that just sounds like shitty leadership to me, man. If y'all ain't got no food, you know what I mean? But I'm sorry, real food.
I'm about to say, because food's always there. It's always something to eat. Nah.
They got an abundant supply apparently. Keeping it on ice. But they I thought
there's a whole different meaning to that song you were singing, huh? Can I get to the yams? It's a completely different form of them, though.
Yeah, that was a good setup too, because I was wondering how they were going to do this. I thought the casting, because you don't really, I mean, essentially everybody's an extra except like 3 people. Yeah. I thought the look of how everybody was for this commune was pretty perfectly cast. So I was pretty excited to see how exactly they were going to do this in the live action version.
Now, one thing I can say so far about this show, they kind of telegraph to you when someone is of importance that you should remember. We've met so many people and none of them were given names. Whenever someone is given a name on this show, it's clearly for a purpose. Kind of like what we did with Bill, whether it be Tess, whether it be Riley last episode. And here, it was the moment that they step out and they start having a conversation. And then you hear what eventually is David saying, James. At that point, I said, oh, might as well say, James, Last of Us. Boop, whole damn storyline pops up of everything that's going to happen here. But again, I think it is something here where they did set it up properly just to show you the desperation of the people. Show you that, they are mourning the loss of this person. But if you just look around, you see the destituteness, if that's not a word, I just created it, of everyone in this commune, and just how scarce everything looks,
right?
How bleak everything looks through a certain filter that you brought up last episode, kind of in that way. And I think that really works to really set up everything here that we needed to set up.
Right.
But the next thing we get to is back to Ellie and Joel, as she's still trying to tend to Joel, trying to get him out of it, trying to make him heal up. In the process, she decides to go hunting, and this is where the episode kicks to high gear to the storyline that you get from the video game.
Right.
As she kills the deer, and then we get David and James coming out the blue wondering who killed the deer, and then that's when you get the big conversation between the three. I'm sorry. What did you think about just initial setup, especially someone who knew what this was, you knew what this was coming into from the game? Did you like the way they introduced everything without the bow and arrow being included?
Yeah, I was gonna say, they changed that obviously. I did like this this everybody's kind of pointing the gun at each other kind of scenario, or just kind of on edge conversation between Ellie and trying to figure out, like, look, clearly there was no way she was going to drag that deer.
Not at all. Not at all.
Like, little girl, I mean, there's no way in the world you're gonna be able to do this by yourself. And how were you going to prepare it for one? Just wasted me. But it was pretty intense scene. But Ellie has come a long way. And she clearly knows how to handle herself in the situation, even though she's still not 100% equipped to handle certain things. I think that she comes in, she takes control of the scene. She knows what to do, disarms the guy, comes in, tells him what to do. Hey, you go back and grab what I need. I'll give you what you need, and I can be up out of here. And the main guy is named James, who just looks like
no. Yeah. The creep guy, James. Yeah. The main guy is David. The creep guy is James.
David. Yeah, it's always a preacher named David.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, think about it.
I'm not gonna think about it, but go ahead.
But he just comes in, man. You can see it on his face. I mean, shout out to them for the actor. And I've seen him on multiple things before, and I cannot think of his name. But he always kind of plays similar roles, man. And he comes right in, and just, man, is he just weird. But Ellie can sense it right on him, like, yo, something wrong with you, bro. Like, and then they go in, of course they have a little talk where he's like, look, I got that medicine. I'm gonna take this deer. You're gonna bust.
Which was a weird trade off of everything. Is the offer, hey, I have medicine, like, or the multitude of things he offered. And then Ellie completely jumped out there and said, medicine. Do you have medicine? Right. And he comes up with this magical elixir of a pill called penicillin. And I only call it that because of what happens later on in the episode that no one's going to be able to explain to me to make it make sense.
The cure-all, which is antibiotics, penicillin, and
man, I didn't know it worked that fast. Like
it doesn't. Yeah. Especially if the infection is gone in full gear like that. No, that takes
days for that to even come close to working. But here, what we do get after they send James off to get the medicine is we get what I feel is some of the best intense conversation we've had on this show so far.
Definitely.
And that's the conversation between David and Ellie. And it's a very simple one about basically him coming across like he cares. But I think Ellie and the audience understanding, like, he doesn't care not one bit. So, like, this guy clearly has an ulterior motive. What did you think from an acting standpoint of every time you saw David and Ellie on screen, and how did it move?
Oh, I mean, the acting was phenomenal. Like you said, he was selling it perfectly. Like, look, come back with me. I got people. We got something to eat. I mean, might not be what you like, but we got something to eat. And already knowing that with a process of elimination, that she is the one that Joel and her were the ones that contributed to the person that died. So he was pretty much using her to lead back to Joel if possible. So he can earn brownie points with the crew. So he wants to solidify his position of leader. This is the best way to go about it. Like, look, you come back with me and you be good, and let me get Joel. He didn't outright say that because she knew he was going to shoot her. She was going to shoot him.
Exactly.
But like I said, it's kind of weird. I mean, he pretty much had the power in the position. They could have shot her and got the Joel easily. I don't know why they didn't just take that route if he was behind her with the gun during that conversation.
It seems like it was because David's main goal clearly was to make Ellie his bride. And he didn't in no way did he want to upset her. So he figured, if we play this game properly, we can get both of them if need be.
Right.
So I think that's why he did it that way. So that's why we then, after they trade the medicine for the deer, we see them two drag the entire deer instead of half of the deer, like Ellie said, back to town. And then before they arrive,
I was going to say, I feel like they did that because they could have just took the deer obviously to the freezer or whatever, and like, hey, we caught something. They really wanted to show face. They really wanted to show face for the deer, and
yes, of
say,
course.
hey, this is what we're eating. Like,
well, this is what David wanted to do,
right?
Because by this point, James had already told them that David is allowing this little girl to live, who's part of a crew of two people who killed this beloved member of their commune.
Right.
So they're already mad, no matter what. But yeah, I think it was the facade that, hey, we got venison, so there should be no questions about where this other meat comes from.
Yeah.
Granted, when they show the other meat on camera, just the way the dude responded when the woman said, "What type of meat is this?" and he just said venison, you knew then that wasn't venison. Not necessarily from the look of it, but from his reaction to her asking, and who asked at this point in time what type of meat this is? You would just assume it was venison.
Clearly did not care. They was hungry. They was going in.
Exactly.
Like, they was
exactly.
Whatever that gumbo, whatever they want to call it, I can't do it.
You would eat it in okay, let's be real here. If you were in this situation and you were starving and someone made something, are you even going to question what it is?
Don't tell me. Just like the local Chinese spot, don't tell me if it's cat or dog. It's been good this whole time. I don't need to know.
Here's the one part though. Even if they told you, would it stop you from eating it?
No.
What you do? There you go. So in other words, according to Terrell, being a cannibal, it's nothing wrong with it. It's a situational thing.
I mean, it's definitely last resort, man. Like, they don't really have a map to explain like where they are in between things to see how far they are from one place to the other. So I can't be like, I can walk down, 40 miles out of state and go get me, hit an old 7-Eleven and hope there's still something in there. You know what I mean? Twinkies still exist.
They
don't have.
If you gotta eat, you gotta eat human. You gotta eat human. It is what it is. I mean, what makes it even worse, and this is a bit of foreshadowing before we get back to the points of the episode. They literally have a scene where they show a dead horse that's not been touched. Next to it is 3 hanging human bodies. Like, it kind of shows you what they value as the good meat.
Right.
And the horse wasn't part of the good meat here. But here in the next scene, what we get is after David and James arrive back at the commune, is everyone's mad. And he basically tells them, we're going to capture them. Here in this scene, and I kind of questioned it before, but here is a way that a quiet David asserts his dominance to this group. When the girl whose father was the one who Joel killed screams out, you need to kill them all. And David's reaction to it and him calming down her mom and then doing all of everything that happened with him in this scene. Is that an honest depiction of the David that we got from the video games?
When that happened, I honestly don't remember that. I don't think that happened in the game.
But not necessarily the action that he took there, but is the depiction of him in that moment like an honest depiction from the video game?
Oh yeah.
Or is that something that they okay?
Yeah, that's just crazy. Yeah, like man, you tell somebody must be hungry, man. Some person that's not your kid's father slap up.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, I'm your daddy now. You need to trust me. And don't look, now let's sit down and pray to eat this food. It's like the weirdest transition that everybody's looking like okay.
Yeah, I think that's
Davis,
what I mean. Yeah, it kind of asserted just how much control he has over everybody. That he can even do something like that and no one question him. That just shows the control he has over this entire group. But next up, we get the big hunt. We get the hunt down for Ellie and Joel. And Ellie here does a courageous thing. After giving Joel a medicine, she decides at this moment to hand Joel a gun and says, if anyone comes, kill them, but you need to stay awake. That's the key part here. At this moment, she told Joel, you need to stay awake because he could barely move.
Right.
And then, after all of this is happening here, Ellie's able to draw them away. She's eventually captured. And then we get into something that felt like a huge change of pace for this episode. And that is Joel the Hunter came out of nowhere.
We see old Joel come back.
Yeah.
We see old Joel, yeah.
What I got a question for you is, from what I read up on it, in the game, does Joel do this in this instance, or this is just an Ellie thing that happens?
I remember this was strictly just all Ellie. Like Ellie gets out of this situation herself, and then like, you know, once she kills everybody, once it's all said and done, she goes back to Joel. He's still like unconscious and done from the medicine. But yeah, it wasn't a scene where he magically just got up, you know, after 2 injections of this penicillin, which, by the way, how did she not know that was poison? Like, I'm looking like, was it a label on the bottle? Like, questions asked. She's like, I'm just gonna take a chance. Like, why would they give medicine to somebody they know kill? She didn't question that at all. But either way, but yeah, I strictly remember like this was all Ellie. Like, I don't remember Joel was not involved. You actually play as Ellie through this entire part, even though like majority of you are Joel. Because he's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and that's why it just came out of nowhere that we get this killer Joel who comes just from the first kill. You clearly see he's still struggling.
Oh yeah.
But as we go on, after Ellie is captured, after she's in prison, and the men are still hunting for him, we see a completely different Joel all of a sudden. One that has injured a man to trick another man into coming to the territory. And then eventually he ties up both men. Like, I'm just amazed just how fast they went and did the transition here.
Yeah, that was what I was a little
helpless
upset about.
and hopeless to just being regular Joel all of a sudden. It's kind of an odd transition there. What did you think about, because this is about halfway through this episode, did you think halfway through this episode you would get something that would change from the game, or were you hoping to get exactly the outcome from the game?
I was hoping to get the exact outcome from the game, but I didn't know how they were going to do it. And I keep thinking to myself, like, Terrell, this is HBO. They're not going to like, you know, they're not going to like shy away from certain things. And you know, mentioning the whole thing you just said about Joel, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't show, like you said, the transitions. A lot of that, it was a kind of quick. Okay, he got this guy. He was home alone, and all these people, and you know, somehow found the time to tie everybody
exactly.
up. And you know, during that scene, like I said, like because like I said, that's the added part of the game. That's the added part that you don't really get in the game. Was obviously this scene, but you get to see that look on Joel's eyes where he's back in hunting mode, like you said. As he stabs that one guy, like, yo, why'd you do that? He told you what you need to know. Like, you know, it wasn't like, hey, you point to this and he's going to tell me. He's just like, nah, I'm just killing everybody. You know,
including the man who was begging for his life at the end. And Joel said, I believe you, as he bashed his head in with a metal pipe.
And this episode also has me to believe, like you said, because they're not trying to deviate too much, that I don't know if this is going to be more than one season. I mean, it hasn't been confirmed or anything like that, but without spoiling it, like we're basically at the end of this.
But we're at the end of the first game, I'm assuming, right?
Right. If they decide to go that route, yeah. Like,
I mean, it's clearly already another game out there.
Right.
So they could, I think that's the goal of it. Is, again, we necessarily don't know how they're going to choose to end this, and it's not called a limited series. So that's normally a good sign.
Go around other characters. I wouldn't mind seeing that. You know, the brother and everything else. It's a big gap. It's a big gap of time that they could touch. So
there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that could still happen. But here is the next big reveal of the episode is when Ellie in the prison finds out that this is cannibalism. And I think that the part that intrigued me the most is that the whole commune didn't know that they were cannibals. As David said, only a select few of us know where the meat comes from. Like, again, let's dispel everything you know from the game. Just think from a storytelling standpoint. How did you think that reveal when Ellie finds out that they're cannibals? How did you think that went?
I was kind of confused as to how she found out. I'm looking at it the whole time like, because she wasn't in the same place that Joel was when he was in the freezer and saw the meat. So I don't know if I missed it. Was it a conversation that she overheard or she saw something? Like, cause
Wasn't it when she peeked her little hands up and looked out the window? Wow, I'm just giving directions when I pointed. But when she looked out the little window in her prison, isn't that? I thought that's when she discovered that they were chopping up people.
yeah, I don't remember. Like I said, I just watched it clearly, but like I don't remember like her seeing anything through the window because that's why they had Joel come in and kind of confirm it. Like
Well, I think she sees something, even if the audience doesn't see it. She sees something,
okay,
and it confirms to her that they're
right.
cannibals. Because
Yeah, I
that's
mean
when
that
she gets down and she brings that up to him.
right. That would
Like, you're
explain
cannibals.
that definitely explains her panic a little bit more while she's in the cell.
Yeah.
As to why she
Hmm.
reacts the way she can't pretty much she doesn't want to hear anything else this guy has to say because she already knows
No.
what they're about.
Yeah.
And I thought that scene, that back and forth between him, he just sold it, man. That guy's so weird. In that
Yeah.
whole
The
conversation.
entire that conversation in
Yeah,
the cell, because that's when it turned from, is he trying to help her or what is going on, to, oh no, he wants her for him.
yeah. Pastor David need a bride.
Yeah, that transition was very creepy. It was an amazing performance there
Right.
with the transition from that moment. But then next up we get back to Killer Joel as he goes through, and at this point Joel discovers everything as he breaks into a home, and when he breaks into the home, which has happened to be kind of like their slaughterhouse for human beings. And this is what I mean by it's a whole horse there. No one has touched a horse. All they did was pick up the horse and put it in there.
They
Like, a
used
horse
the
doesn't have
premium.
lots of meat on it that they can
Yeah.
use. And instead, we see the three corpses. Something, again, as you said, this is HBO. You're going to get this from HBO. From other networks, they're not going to be able to show that. But they show you the three corpses. They show you exactly what's going on here as Joe looks on in horror. And then we get the biggest moment of the episode. And this is when Ellie's in the prison cell. And after she injures David by trying to break his fingers, him and James come and take her to attempt to slaughter her up and cut her into, as David said, tiny pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But here is where the one thing that works out well for Ellie here, as she bites David, as she's attempting to defend herself, and then she yells to them before they can cut her up, "I'm infected." And then she reveals the scars that we've always seen on her arm. My question is here, if you saw the scars on her arm and they clearly don't look recent, would you be concerned with her being infected?
I think most people like David and can I think of James? Like
James is the follower. David was the
right.
leader.
So you kind of see the difference in their reactions to it in that scene where
Mm-hmm.
James is like, "Yo, no, like we like we know that," and David is clearly like, "Nah, that's," as he has the conversation later, like something's not right. That clearly
Yeah.
that ain't the day. Like you would have been gone. And the more he's actually rationalizing the situation, one because he thinks he's about to die, and
Yeah.
two like
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "Nah." So yeah, that was pretty crazy. Like she used that as a trump card. Like, yo, you don't want to eat me. Like I'm already
Yeah.
done. You don't want to do this, but. Kind of curious as to how they didn't see that the first time because they took her jacket and everything off of her as they put her in the cell. You would think they
Yeah,
would.
but they probably took her jacket off, but not her shirt off. Because remember,
Right.
she told him, roll up my sleeve, you'll see that I'm infected. So, I mean, if you're taking a jacket off, I've taken jackets off of, this is going to sound horrible. I've taken jackets off of children before, but I'm older.
Right.
Children I'll take care of.
Right.
And you're not rolling up sleeves, you're just removing the jacket. So they would have never seen if she was infected, because I think if they would have seen that, they would have just got rid of her immediately.
Right.
There would have been no need to even put her in that environment to attempt to say they're gonna chop her up or do anything, or David wanting her to be his little child bride. Like none of that would have happened if they would have looked at it beforehand.
It sucks, man, because it's like at some point in this show, Kid Ellie goes away, and I think we lost Kid Ellie when her friend got bit that night, obviously, and
Yeah,
everything else, and she just has this mindset now to even attempt to make that play, and to use the infected card, and then her reaction to killing a person now, because it's never really been like as direct. She's killed infected, but actually having to kill another human is a whole
it's
nother
different.
level that Joel has
Mm-hmm.
been trying to keep her from the entire show. And he's been
Yeah,
trying to keep her away from that level, because once you cross it, it ain't no going back. Like it just becomes easy.
it brings up what Tommy's wife told her beforehand: is be careful because you don't necessarily know everything about Joe.
Right.
And the thing is, by killing this way, I think it does open up that bit of darkness in her that Joel has to live with, that Tommy has to live with, of the things they had to do to survive. I mean, in the
Right.
end, it's not like you're just killing people to kill people. She had an amazing reason to kill the two people that she did, but in the end, it's still a kid killing people,
Right.
and that kind of weighs on you a little bit. But last 10 minutes of this episode, complete mayhem. I don't think there's much to discuss here because it turned into an action movie here. I the biggest question I have, biggest question. So after she kills James in a brilliant hammer move, and David showed no emotion when James died.
Yeah. He ain't care.
After she set up everything and threw the wooden log and the cabin started catching fire, why didn't James grab anything like to put out the fire?
I have no idea. I it was more than enough time. Maybe they didn't have one, which wouldn't make sense, but there was more than enough time to
Because
go
Ellie
in there.
couldn't escape. Everything was locked up. She can
Right.
go nowhere.
I think he was just. I think he just lost it at that point, man. Like, like he just didn't care or what. But there was no reason for him. No attempt. Like, okay, this is where you eat. This is where everybody communes. What are
Yeah,
you gonna do?
exactly.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I think in the game version of it, like it just spreads like super quickly, and they can't put it out because Ellie's like going around starting fires. But
Okay. So, but in the game, she's starting multiple fires,
yeah, but
and
I
not
don't.
just one log lit, and magically the
And,
entire cabin
yeah,
in flames.
and in the game, like he still, as the place is burning down, he still tries to find the time to rape her, which is wild to me. Like
Well,
you're about to die.
he
Like,
literally did that in the show too. So
yeah, he's like,
it kind of makes sense.
like
Hey, one
so.
track mind.
I was I was
Of,
kind of I was kind of hoping, but I'm glad they didn't. That Joel came in and saved her. Um,
yeah.
but
Hmm.
I'm glad they didn't do that because this shows her being able to obviously defend herself, handle herself,
Yeah.
and show her level up to that next level. Because now she's killed not one but two people, and she went in on this guy. Like you could tell how person that was. And she stabbed him, stabbed him.
Yeah.
So
And even the death of James was more of a reactionary thing.
right,
Like she seized the moment and like then hit him and sliced him up. But here with David, this was brutal. This was it's a great correlation for what she did to David is to what Joel did to the guy with the metal pipe. It's the same reaction from both of them. Like Joel basically had to beat him with that metal pipe until he was dead. It was like no other way around it.
right.
And she did the same thing here with David, and she's just chopping at him over and over and over and over again. And I did love the scene after this of her just, you see her walking and you see her eyes just completely glassed over from everything she just did. And then you get Joel coming up to her. And I think, is this the moment where we see the full connection of him looking at her more like his daughter or more
Yeah.
like a daughter than the way he's been viewing her since the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the transition where he sees her as a daughter, and their trust level goes up to 100%. I mean, what he calls her, he says "baby girl" when he pulls her in and sees that look on her face, and this is now, this person he has to, try to protect, or she can protect herself. But as he's tried to do everything to keep her as a kid, he pretty much now knows, like, it's past that point. You see the blood on her face, clearly not hers, stuff like that. So yeah, this is definitely the point where you see him go into thinking that Ellie is his daughter, and that plays a big part in the finale of this as well. Now that he has that mindset, because remember, he's still on the mission. He still has a job to do.
There you go. Yep.
So
even though the mission now is kind of pointless, because the mission to drop Ellie off was to get the battery, but the battery was for him to be able to go find Tommy, which now is done already. Or was there a different purpose for the battery?
They were supposed to get the battery so they can, They were supposed to go use the car.
Get the car so they could get to find Tommy. And they found Tommy already. So at this point, I think if he didn't care anymore, it would have been just easy just to end it all and be like, yeah, I don't really need you anymore.
Right.
Like, my purpose has been served here. But what did you think, sir? Your final thoughts on episode 8, Everyone Eats Everyone Eventually?
Oh, man, I thought they did an amazing job, man. Like I said, it was one of the moments that I was looking forward to. I wish they would have had a little bit more of a struggle between the Ellie and what's name fight, but I wish Joel would have stayed unconscious, but that wouldn't have made sense, especially if Bruce is looking in the house. I'm glad they did have him wake up and kill everybody. But like I said, I'm glad they didn't have him come in and save Ellie. I thought that was a big part that needed to happen. Like I said, for her to level up into her killer mode as her dad Joel, was going around killing everybody. But they did an amazing job with the just showing like the commune and how everybody's surviving, how you get to see another part of this world where there are places where obviously supplies are not ample. You don't have Fedra, you don't have the government, you don't have food stamps to get your food for the week and stuff like that. The ration cards. And you see how people are able to survive outside of pretty much the zones. And what they're willing to do to do that. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it personally, but see, he said, just don't tell me. Don't tell me. The McChicken wasn't chicken this whole time. Don't come back and say, oh, it's all natural meat, white meat now.
I hate to tell you this, but if you ate a McRib before, you've already had human meat.
Oh, man.
I'm just letting everybody know now. Just in case no one's ever known, the McRib is clearly it's not any form of pork. It's human flesh. So if you had a McRib,
that's true by the McDonald's Corporation. Oh my God! Look, he didn't mean that. Look, it was a joke.
Oh man! So for me, episode 8, it's a really good episode. It's a really solid episode. The tonal shift that happens is still going to be confusing to me. One, penicillin should not work that fast. I would have preferred a Joel where he was still out of it. Like the first kill, I didn't mind because it made sense. This is a guy who's struggling to survive. But so if he'd have killed the first guy and then that would have been it, and then he would have been in the hiding, great. That makes perfectly good sense. But when he felt like in a video game and he got the little power up thing that you can grab and all his health went back, it threw it off just a little bit. Or just make it an Ellie episode, because
I was hoping that was going to be that. Yeah.
Bella did a great job in this show with this sick performance with someone who was utterly terrifying and scary in the sweetest way humanly possible in David, because he's so calm in his approach to everything. So those elements of it really work well. The ending, I'm not a huge fan of it because I'm still confused why no one put out that fire. And everything.
Yeah, where was everybody else?
No one else was around. I was so confused.
Nobody's hearing this. Like, I mean, they didn't use guns or anything. No, they shot the guy. He was shooting. Like, where was the help? Like that. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. But I was definitely about to ask you that. What did you think about Ellie's kind of evolution from beginning to where we are now? And of course,
Well,
Bella's, like you said, she gave an excellent
yeah.
performance. What do you think about her kind of like change and the tones
I,
throughout the
th-
show?
I think you said it perfectly. It's the loss of childhood. That's it.
Mm.
It's she has been, and earlier in the show, she was still allowed to be a kid, even though like the Fireflies were holding her captive a little bit.
Mm.
And no part of it took away from her being a child. Over the last 3 episodes, that innocence has been taken away. So now we get to see this character differently once the innocence is gone. And that is something that I think from a storytelling standpoint is perfect, because you need to understand just what a person is willing to do once everything is taken away from them, and the correlation between her and Joel. Because
Right.
this technically is what happened to Joel when he lost his daughter. When you took everything away from him, he had to turn into someone different. And that's what it feels like with Ellie is, I mean, it's weird, but her biggest connection in this universe was Sam. And the moment he died, everything changed for her. Because one, I think it brought in that fact that children think they're invincible until it's proven to them that they're not.
Right.
And it's normally a tragic event that has to happen for a kid to look and be like, oh, so you're telling me I'm not going to always be around here? Like, I can't survive everything. And I think that's the play that I got from Sam to Ellie to the Ellie we have now, is that innocence has been stripped away. That sense of invincibility has been stripped away. And once that's stripped away, we get a completely different Ellie. And this is an Ellie I'm very interested in seeing how this character moves forward with.
Right.
Because now I think the childish stuff is gone from her.
Oh yeah,
Now
for
it's
sure.
just going to be straightforward, everything else. So I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed this episode, though. This made up for last episode, for sure. It made up for last
With
episode,
the
where they were just
oh yeah, with
walking
her.
and walking and walking over and over. Like, this makes up for what I thought was a subpar episode last time.
I was going to say too, to add to what you were saying. We're at the point where Ellie no longer has a protector. When we get the thing with Riley, Riley was the one protecting her while she was on, in school. Tess, Marlene, Joel. These are the people that were protecting her. Whatever. This is the first time that she literally has no one and has to do this on her own. And I think she handles it well. Like she got out of that. But as you see it, as we get to the end of this, like where she literally breaks down. She like the fear finally, like the fear of everything finally gets to her. And she just breaks down in front of with Joel. Like I said, this is where she, like you said, realized that she's not as invulnerable as she thinks she is. Yeah.
So here we go again. Another recap review brought to you by Big Gold Belt of The Last of Us. This is episode 8. You can check this out right after the episode airs on HBO Max. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you think about this episode. Tell us what you think about the evolution of Ellie so far in the series. Let us know. Do you think Joe healed too fast from penicillin? Is this a miracle drug that we know nothing about in 2022? Let us know what you think about just the commune, the people of these new group of survivors that we brought here. And are you interested in seeing different groups of survivors? Maybe that is a way that this show can continue or go down a different path, is by introducing these new characters to you that we are not accustomed to seeing so far. Anything else, Terrell?
No, that's it, man. McDonald's don't sue us,
Never
and
picks
I
up.
wish Joel would have pulled out his Mandalorian gear, man. It would have made a lot more sense as to why he's different franchise.
Wow.
But no, great episode.
Wow.
Like I said, you summed it up quite well. Other than that, smash that subscribe button, like us on YouTube.
I'm just gonna have to start saying, "Hey, Mr. YouTube, anything else?" So you can just say,
"Big Go About Me," like you said. Drop us a comment. Let us know if I missed anything in the games. I've played it like a dozen times. So, of course,
never played it a day in my life.
I'm very curious as to what everybody talked about the kind of the differences, like what you would have wanted to see, and does this improve, of course, improve upon the game, because that's of course what you want to do with an adaptation if you can. But other than that, I mean, episode 8, just got to check that mystery meat, man. I'm no longer going to eat the McRib at McDonald's anymore. But other than that,
hey, if you want a list of fast food restaurants and things that you should question, come to Big Old Belt Media. Come to the website. We're going to put on the website a list of fast food places that you need to question why that meat doesn't taste like the meat you are accustomed to tasting. Ask yourself, riddle me this: why the fish fillet was tested and it had 0% fish in it?
I thought that was Subway with the tuna. But all right,
anyway. No, it was Subway. Hey, Subway tuna also. Or you got question why the chicken McNugget for years was not marketed as having chicken meat, and then they just started marketing that like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, all white, natural white meat.
Exactly. And when they say natural white meat, are they talking about chicken? Just things to think about, people. Tune in next week. Peace, people.
See you.